Get a moment to get ready here. Well, the free agency already kicked off, but what are some of the most notable of the free agent signings? I'm going to be going over each and every one of them. But what's going on, guys? My name is Antonio, and this is the All Around Sports Cast. This is the special live edition of the free agency week recap. Now, as we all know, free agency started on Wednesday. We know free agency started, but now we look at the NFL as now the new league year has officially begun. So I have all the listings of all the 32 NFL teams signings on this little sheet of paper here. I'm going to be going over each individual team in no particular order. So, if you guys do enjoy this video, please make sure to hit that like button down below. And be sure to subscribe. I go over everything NFL. I will be doing it live on the draft day when it happens. For, as we all know, as some teams are looking to get quarterbacks, some teams are looking to get receivers. We got a lot of moves to get into. But first, we move things over to the first team. I'm going to be doing these in no particular order. First up is the Philadelphia Eagles. They, according to things I have seen from them, I've been keeping an eye on all team situations. They signed former New York Giant Saquon Barkley, former New York Jet Bryce Huff, former Detroit Lion that played with them a few years ago, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Devontae Parker, Devin White, and traded for Kenny Pickett. But which of these moves do I see as the eye drawer to me? I think the one that was eye drawer to me, which I don't think a lot of people saw coming, was Saquon Barkley going to the division rival Eagles. And I think this is his way of going and getting revenge on the Giants because they weren't offering him that big salary cap, so he went to go and join the Philadelphia Eagles, which, I mean, the moves that the Eagles have made so far, I mean, they're not terrible, but the one on offense that draws my eye is Saquon Barkley, because he's going to be a big key indicator for this offense because of DeAndre Swift now going to another team, which we'll get to here in just a little bit. But also one on defense that I have seen is an eye drawer to me is C.J. Gardner-Johnson. As we all know, the defense last year for the Eagles was not great, but it wasn't very good as it was the year they went to the Super Bowl. But I mean, the one that I like personally on the defensive side is Devin White. White, I think, is a really good linebacker, and I think he's going to suit very well with this Philadelphia Eagles team. But we'll see what happens and transpires. Now moving things over to the black and yellow Pittsburgh Steelers. They signed quarterback Russell Wilson to a 1-year, $1.2 million deal, which the Denver Broncos will be paying the rest of this money that they owe them. Also, along with signing the linebacker from Baltimore, Patrick Queen, quarterback, exchanging players, sending Dante Johnson to the Carolina Panthers in exchange for Deontay Jackson. Also, along with getting Deshaun Elliott and Van Jefferson. Now, I said this before. Russell Wilson I saw as a move that could happen for the Steelers, and it did happen. I went over this video in a few weeks ago. I said that Russell Wilson was going to be one of the top candidates to go to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I think that was a good move by the Pittsburgh Steelers. But also, what I didn't kind of see coming was Patrick Queen going to the Steelers. I mean, and I'm so ticked off about this because not only did I want him to join my team, which you can clearly see is the Seahawks, but because of he was playing for the rival Baltimore Ravens a little while ago, and the Steelers, they always do this. They always go after the big defensive players. They always do this every single year. They always go there. But another one I found interesting was Deshaun Elliott. We all know he was with Miami last year. I think that was a good signing for their cornerback room. But now we move things down to the Atlanta Falcons, who have made 3 signings so far, including Kirk Cousins to a 4-year, $180 million deal, $100 million guaranteed. Also, along with signing Darnell Mooney, and also along with trading with the Arizona Cardinals for Rondale Moore. Now, I do believe that this is something in the making because Kirk Cousins, he's a good quarterback for when it comes to the regular season, but postseason is not very good. I'm expecting the Atlanta Falcons to contend for the NFC South, but maybe even win a playoff game. But you of course got Tampa Bay to deal with. But Darnell Mooney and Rondale Moore, I could see as 2 very big weapons. You pair them with Drake London, you pair them with Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson, Cordell Patterson, and a few other guys. That is a really good combo right there for offense. And I think this offense of the Atlanta Falcons is going to be very increasingly better this year than it was last year. But now we move down to Baltimore, which the only signing that they have made so far was running back Derrick Henry, which not a lot of us saw coming. We were expecting him to get some calls from the Dallas Cowboys, but according to what reports have from Derrick Henry himself, he never got a call from the Dallas Cowboys organization. And now he lands in Baltimore to pair up with Lamar Jackson. Now, I think this is a good move by the Ravens because you lost Gus Edwards to the Chargers, and I think this is a good signing by the Baltimore Ravens to help out with their run game because they're the most physical running team in the National Football League. So this was a good move by the Ravens. Of course, we're still a little optimistic about Lamar Jackson, but the Ravens are getting somewhere. The Ravens are getting somewhere. They made an AFC Championship appearance last year. We'll see if they can get back there. Now moving things down to Cincinnati. A few signings that has happened recently, including Geno Stone from the Baltimore Ravens, Zach Moss, Mike Gesicki, Rankins from the Texans. Williams, I think he's an lineman. And then Bell, he was a former cornerback. And then that's pretty much it for the Bengals. But the one move that stands out to me about the Bengals is Geno Stone. Geno Stone, I've watched him when he was at Baltimore last year. I thought he was going to go to the Seahawks because we all know Mike McDonald's there right now. But this was one that kind of caught me off guard because now you add him to a already dangerous Bengals defense. And remember, Burrow was hurt last year. And that, I believe, was a big reason why they missed the playoffs. But, of course, this is a new team. Because Joe Mixon, we all know, got traded to the Texans, which I'll be going over here in a little bit. But Zach Moss, I mean, he's a decent running back, but I don't think he's that good. But Mike Gesicki, he's a tight end. I mean, he's 50-50. And then Rankins from the Texans. That one I could see being an eye drawer. And then I think he goes by the name Ronnie Bell. I think that's how his name is pronounced. But Bell, I know, has played with the team before, and now he goes back to the team. But now moving things down to the Super Bowl runner-up that lost in the Super Bowl again. I'm getting the sound effect ready here. Losing in the Super Bowl again. Which one was it? Losing the Super Bowl again. Oh, dang it. Losing the Super Bowl again. Pretty much how Niners fans felt after that. The suffering just keeps on going when it comes to the Niners. But they have made a few moves recently. They've signed Leonard Floyd, who was with the Rams and also along with the Bills last year. They re-signed Greg Odom, which I don't know if he has any comparison to Lamar Odom, who was on crack, from what Stephen A. said when he was with the Knicks. But anyways, then there's Jonathan Elliott and Devondre Campbell. I know that the Packers released him, but that was a spot I did not see him going to. But that's a good move. But, I mean, they're loading up on defense, but I think the offense is primary issue. I mean, sure, Brock Purdy did very well, but their offensive line just needs to get better. And I think they need to sign some more O-linemen. But Leonard Floyd, I do have some good things on him. I know he won a Super Bowl with the Rams when he was there. He went to the Bills last year to join up with Von Miller. But other than that, Devondre Campbell, I could see being 50-50 because he is getting old in age. Now moving things down to the Dallas Cowboys. Moving down to the so-called America's team. They've only made a few moves. Signing Eric Kendricks, which I made an error on one of my videos, saying to some people that I talked to, saying Aaron Kendricks went to the Niners. I was wrong because he went to the Cowboys. And then you also got Lewis. I think he was a corner. And then you also got Lucas, which I think he is some kind of guard. But they've made more releases than they have signings. They recently released Vander Ushak, and then also along with Michael Gallup. But the Cowboys, we know them for not making these many moves in the free agency because it's Jerry Jones. And Cowboys, they don't have a running back, which I think is their primary concern. Because Tony Pollard, we all know he went to the Titans, and now you are in a very hard running back situation, which the only running backs you have were this guy from Kansas State, that was a rookie last year. I don't remember his name, but I do know that he was with the team for some time. I don't know if he's going to be a full-time starter, but we'll see on how things go there. But now moving things down to the G-men, as I like to call them, as probably many people do from the old days. The New York Giants, they traded with the Panthers to lock down Brian Burns, and then also signed former Seattle Seahawk Drew Lock as a quarterback backup. Also along with Devin Singletary and Isaiah McKenzie. But the one that stands out to me the most about the New York Giants is Brian Burns and the contract that he got. And I think this is a good move by the Giants. You now pair him with Kayvon Thibodeau, which, I mean, we're all expecting the Giants to not be any good this next season because their quarterback issue is off the charts. And then also along with their running back issue is also a major spot of concern since Barkley went to the Eagles, which I bet a lot. I'm very interested to see what the reaction is going to be from the fans when Saquon Barkley returns to MetLife in the stadium next season. That will for sure be interesting. But the Devin Singletary and Isaiah McKenzie one, I think are pretty good. I've seen Devin Singletary with the Texans last year, of course, and he's a good runner. He is a great running back, and then also along with Isaiah McKenzie, who played with the Bills for some time. I think this is another good signing. Now shifting things down to the Commanders, which is still a corny name, by the way. They signed running back Austin Eckler, former Dallas Cowboy, defensive lineman Armstrong. They also signed Chin, Farrell, Zach Ertz, Frankie Louvu, and then also former Seattle Seahawk Bobby Wagner, which hoping that guy has a lot of success. Hopefully he beats those Cowboys once. Hopefully at least once. But the one I could see being the most impactful for the Commanders on offense is Austin Eckler. Eckler is such a hard runner. The Seahawks faced him 2 years ago. And man, when I saw this guy, Austin Eckler, I was like, who in the heck is this guy? And he can just run it down people's throats. He can just put it on them. He can just pour it on. And he can just absolutely demolish any defensive line. He can destroy anyone. And then the defensive side, the one that stands out to me the most, is Bobby Wagner. Because Bobby, he is a great linebacker. He was actually one of the few members of the Seahawks that actually won a Super Bowl with the team back in 2014. Which that brother, Bobby Wagner, will be missed in Seattle. He will be missed. But now that the Commanders are actually looking at maybe going after a quarterback, now that Sam Howell's with the Seahawks, which is kind of a question mark in my opinion on how we got Sam Howell. But now you're looking at like maybe getting like Drake May or Jaden Daniels. I mean, we'll see what happens, but I have a feeling whoever the Commanders pick as their starting quarterback, Dan Campbell is going to try to build something around him. But we'll see, of course, what happens in the draft. I will be doing a live video on the draft on draft day when it happens. But now moving things down to the Cardinals, making a very few moves, including two former Seattle Seahawks moves, DJ Dallas, running back, and then also along with LJ Cooler. And then also along with trading with the Atlanta Falcons, as I mentioned earlier, for Desmond Ridder. I think they're going to go for him as kind of like a backup. And then also along with Williams, I think he's an old lineman, and then Moore, and then Tunga. I mean, the Cardinals, I always look at them as a threat because every game the Seahawks have against them is always close. Always. And I never underestimate Kyler Murray, especially Kyler Murray, which he actually posted on something that I'm going to be going over in just a second. But the Cardinals, I mean, they're somewhere, but I'm not expecting them to be a threat next year. But of course, said that before about the Rams. Look how that turned out. But we'll see what happens. But speaking of the Rams, they signed, a few of their signings was former Seattle Seahawk Kobe Parkinson's, also along with Curl and Garoppolo as a backup quarterback. Also, recent news came out about Aaron Donald retiring from the Rams, which is a big loss for the Rams, but it's a big advantage for the Seahawks. Which, I mean, I'm happy the brother's gone, but that brother is going to be missed. That brother will be missed. But the one there's not very few that I like. I mean, if they wanted a blocking tight end, I mean, Colby Parkinson's not a blocking tight end. He's a receiver, and he's not been a great blocking tight end, and if that's what the Rams were looking for, good luck with that, buddy. But Curl, I know he's a corner. I mean, that's a 50-50 move. And then Garoppolo, I mean, why? Why even sign him? Because you got Matthew Stafford there. Now, if he's a backup, then I can see that. But still, I just don't get it. But anyways, moving down the board to the Bears, making some big offensive time moves on their offense, including signing a few guys. DeAndre Swift, who was with the Eagles last year, Gerald Everett, that was with the Chargers, Jonathan Owens, who was with the Packers, the husband of Simone Biles, and then also along with Jonathan Peters and Shelton. Shelton. And then one of the most surprising trades that I believe we did not all did not see coming was Keegan Allen being traded to the Chicago Bears from the Chargers. I don't think a lot of us saw that coming, including myself, because here's the deal. I mean, I like all of these moves that the Bears are making on offense. They ought to know something we don't know, because here's the deal. The Bears have the number 1 pick. With the moves they're making right now, it's looking like they're aiming to Caleb Williams, which I've said that Justin Fields has the potential. Which, I mean, if the Seahawks could trade for Fields, that would be good. But, I mean, these offensive moves are pretty good. They're pretty good. But moving things down to the Packers, they signed running back Josh Jacobs, and then corner Xavier McKinney, and re-signed Nixon, but also letting go of Aaron Jones. But Josh Jacobs, I mean, I did not see this move coming, but the running back room is getting filled up, and then of course A.J. Dillon, of course, returning to the Packers, which is a big move for the Packers on getting him back. But Xavier McKinney, I think he's going to be a really good player for this for the Packers. I've seen what this guy can do, and I think he's a good move by the Packers. Sorry, just had to get something quick. But moving things down the board to the team that actually signed Aaron Jones after the Packers released him, none other than division rival, the Minnesota Vikings. Also along with getting Sam Darnold, re-signing Brandon Powell, and getting a few other guys. But, I mean, the Vikings got a bit of a quarterback situation going on. We don't know if they're going to draft a quarterback in the draft, and if they're not, then Sam Darnold's going to be their starter. Which, I mean, Sam Darnold's not terrible, but I see him more of as a backup than a starter. I see him more of a backup than a starter. But moving things down the board to the Tennessee Titans, that made a sign on Tony Pollard, Calvin Ridley, and we signed Westbrook Ikine, also along with getting the Mason Rudolph, who is now Rudolph the Red-Nosed Titan, which I called him the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Steeler back when he was with the Steelers. But, I mean, the Titans are getting some moves done. I mean, Will Levis, I mean, he's a good quarterback, but I think they brought in Mason Rudolph to have a good backup option, just in case, just so that way Levis can learn from a veteran. But a few moves that I didn't see coming was Calvin Ridley. That I did not see coming. Calvin Ridley going to the Titans. I mean, that's a big time move because the Titans already got DeAndre Hopkins. And now you pair him up with Tony Pollard and Deshaun Watson? I mean, that's good. That's a good offense. And, I mean, we'll see what the Titans do. Of course, the first time without Mike Vrabel, which I believe was a dumb firing in my opinion. But moving things down to the AFC South champion of last year, the Texans, who traded for Joe Mixon with the Cincinnati Bengals, and then also along with signing Danielle Hunter. I think both of those moves are really good move for the Texans. Joe Mixon, we already know he's a great runner. He is a great runner, and he was a part of the team that went to the Super Bowl with the Cincinnati Bengals. But of course, we all know what is happening in Houston. They're trying to build around C.J. Stroud, which I think that was a good move to get him a weapon. Also, along with signing Danielle Hunter. I think they needed to do that, especially after Jonathan Grenard went to another team. So, I mean, I like the moves by the Texans, and I'm thinking they're going to go all in this year. Unlike the Cowboys, who have only made 2 moves, they have more releases than they have signings, for crying out loud. But moving things down to the Jaguars, who their only move has been to sign Eric Armstead, who was released by the 49ers. But that is a good move by the Jags. I think that was a good move because their defense needed some help after this past year. Because after a exit to the Tennessee Titans in the season finale, which ultimately won the division for the Houston Texans, I think that was a good signing for the Jaguars to help their defensive line. But this is going to be an interesting thing. But moving things down to the Indianapolis Colts, re-signing Stewart and Moore, also along with signing Joe Flacco and signing Davis. I mean, Joe Flacco, I think they put him in as kind of like a backup to Anthony Richardson, just in case if he does get hurt again, or just to learn from him. I mean, we'll see what happens, but those are some good moves. But moving things down the board, the Cleveland Browns made some recent moves, trading for Jerry Jeudy, who I think was a good trade, and then also along with signing Jameis Winston as a backup, also along with Devin Bush, and then also along with Harris, with re-signing Shelby Harris. I think they made some good defensive moves with signing Bush and re-signing Harris. I think that's a good move for their defensive side because their defense was what ultimately led them to the playoffs last year, and also along with the help of Joe Flacco. But of course, this is going to be a new, interesting year for the Cleveland Browns. We'll see if they can finally get past the mountain, get past the gauntlet. Maybe, just maybe, they might make a Super Bowl soon. We don't know. But moving things down the board to the New Orleans Saints, who their recent moves have been signing former Kansas City Chief Willie Gay, also along with signing wide receiver Wilson. Now, I think that the Saints are trying to get some weapons for Derek Carr, or maybe get after another quarterback. But we'll see what happens with the Saints. But so far, 2 really good moves by the Saints. Now moving things down to probably the biggest embarrassment of the last year, the Carolina Panthers, who have recently signed. They traded for Deontay Johnson from the Pittsburgh Steelers, as we all know, and then also along with signing Josie Jewell and getting Jackson. Now, Josie Jewell, I think, is a good defensive signing for this team. Of course, Jadeveon Clowney is currently in meetings with the Panthers. I'm not sure where Clowney has gone yet, or if anything has officially happened. But we'll see what happens in the following weeks. Moving things down the board to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They re-signed Levante David and Jordan Whitehead, also along with Bradson. I think he's a O-line. I mean, so far they've re-signed 2 very good defensive players, which I think they needed to re-sign those 2 guys. But they let go of Devin White, who's a big loss in my opinion. But moving things down the board to the NFC runner-up, the Detroit Lions, who had a 24-7 lead against the 49ers, but ultimately gave it up. But anyways, they signed Robertson and DJ Reader, which I think the DJ Reader signing for the Detroit Lions, I think was a really good signing because you pair him up with with Aiden Hutchinson. I mean, that's a dangerous duo flat out right there. Because DJ Reader, I don't know why the Bengals let him go because he was a big indicator for their defense. Now you put him with Detroit, who's trying to get back to the NFC Championship game. That is a big signing, in my opinion. Now moving things down to another big embarrassment last year, oldly known as a dynasty, the New England Patriots. Man, the Patriots have just gone into a ditch. And signing three unknown guys, I mean, the Patriots are in for a world of pain. I'm not going to even talk about the players because they're in such a world of pain. Moving down the board to the Buffalo Bills, who released a few of their players, which was surprising. One of them coming to the Seahawks, which was, of course, Terrell Dodson, who I'll get to here in a little bit. But also, they signed Moreau and also signed Curtis Samuel. I think the Curtis Samuel was a good signing to help replace some of the weapons of the defense, but we'll see what transpires in that section. Moving things down the board to the New York Jets, signing Moses, trading for Moses, getting Taylor, and then Mosley. It's mostly been offensive linemen, and then also along with signing Tyron Smith from the Cowboys. Now, I think this is a good move because you got the bad man, as we all like to call him, getting a new offensive line. We'll see what happens with Aaron Rodgers and that bad man. We'll see how that goes for the Jets. Moving things down the board to the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins making some big signings, including Harris, along with former Seattle Seahawk Jordan Brooks, Jordan Poyer, Shaq Barrett, Neil, Fuller, and a few other guys. Now, I know that the Miami Dolphins are going after defensive guys, but I mean, the ones that stand out to me the most that I think can help their defense is Jordan Brooks and Jordan Poyer. Now, Jordan Poyer was with the Bills last year, which I don't know why the Bills released him, and now the Miami Dolphins got him, which I think that was a big loss for the Buffalo Bills. And then you also got Jordan Brooks. Jordan Brooks, I have seen this guy when he's playing. He is a game changer. He can change up plays. And he's been in the NFL for only a few years. Jordan Brooks is a big signing for the Miami Dolphins. And I'm hoping he has success up there. But, of course, moving down the board to the Raiders, who their two signings so far have been Christian Wilkins from the Miami Dolphins and Gardner Minshew of the Indianapolis Colts from last year. Now, Christian Wilkins, I think this is a move that nobody saw coming. Because Wilkins, you pair him up with Max Crosby? I mean, damn, that is a dangerous, formidable duo right there. Because these two guys are big, hard-hitting defensive tackles and talk a lot of smack. Got a little words cut out of my mouth. Pardon me. But Gardner Minshew, I mean, that's a good signing too, because everyone forgets that he almost led the Indianapolis Colts to the playoffs. He was this close to leading them there. But, of course, they released Hunter Renfrow, and then that's all I know from him so far. Moving things down the board to the Kansas City, the defending Super Bowl champion, back-to-back Super Bowl champion, Kansas City Chiefs, signing tight end Irv Smith Jr., also along with their new receiver, Marquise Hollywood Brown, which you ain't going after Metcalf now. I'm just saying that right now. I've been getting a lot of talk from a particular Chiefs fan that says Metcalf's going to the Chiefs, but heck no, they ain't trading him. That Chief fan can suck an egg for all that I care, but not in an inappropriate way, of course. But Marquise Hollywood Brown to the Kansas City Chiefs, I think was a good move because Hollywood Brown is a big weapon for the Chiefs. Now, of course, he's a speedster. He can run. And the Seahawks had to face him twice a year when he was with the Cardinals. And now he's going to a good situation in Kansas City, which Marquise Hollywood Brown is a great receiver. I think he's going to have tons of success in Kansas City. But moving things down the board to the Donkeys, as I like to call them, also known as the Broncos. They re-signed Barton, but other than that, they have not made any big-time moves as of late. But Denver, I know they're going to be a world of pain because they don't know who's their quarterback right now. Which the Seahawks are from last time I checked, they're actually scheduled to meet with the Seahawks again. But we'll see what happens there. Moving things down the board to the Chargers. They signed Uncle Will Disley, also along with Gus Edwards and Hurst, also along with that. But the Chargers, I think these were some good signings. Will Disley is a great player. I hope he has tons of success up there. But also Gus Edwards, he can run. And you replace him, and you get a big upgrade over Austin Eckler of getting Gus Edwards. And I think this is a good move. Herbert and we don't know what to expect from the Chargers yet because Jim Harbaugh's there. But we'll see what transpires. And then, I saved the best for last. None other than my team, the Seahawks. They re-signed Noah Fant and Leonard Williams, who I think were two really good re-signings. Also along with signing a few other guys. Pharaoh Brown, a tight end. Nick Harris. George Fant. Rayshawn Jenkins. And Artie Burns. And then also along with Terrell Dodson. Man, the Seahawks made a lot of good moves. The ones I'm excited about on offense is, of course, the offensive line people, which is, of course, Nick Harris and also along with George Fant, which now we're going to have two Fants on the same team, which that's going to be very confusing. But George Fant, I think, is a good signing. He's played with the Seahawks before, from what I know, and then also along with Nick Harris. He played at UW for a while, so he's going back to Seattle, this time a part of the Seattle Seahawks. I think the Nick Harris move was a big hire for the team to help with the offensive line. And then there's Pharaoh Brown, which I did not see this guy coming. I mean, he's not terrible, but he's not great. Now, Pharaoh Brown does kind of give me familiar vibes of Noah Fant, but also a few signings that I found pretty dang interesting were the two new defensive signings, Rayshawn Jenkins and Terrell Dodson. These two guys, I watched Rayshawn Jenkins for a while. He is a great safety. I watched him in the game against the Cowboys that he had, which we all know that he had that game-winning pick six in overtime. And then he's also performed really well. I've seen his highlights. He is really good at stopping the run and is good at reading out plays, which I think is a really good thing for the Seahawks defense. Also along with replacing Jamal Adams and Quandre Diggs at the safety position, which I think was well needed. And then you got Terrell Dodson, the former Buffalo Bill, who was released. I think that this move was huge for the Seahawks as far as linebackers go. I have seen this guy. I've watched his highlights. He's a good man at stopping the run. He can force balls out. He can get the job done on the defensive line. And then, of course, the re-signing of Leonard Williams. Leonard Williams was a big game changer for this team. He was a big game changer. He was traded from, as we all know, from the Giants to the Seahawks last year, midway through the season. Leonard Williams, this man is a big man. He is so tough. And he is just so good. I think, and also, Uchenna Nwosu wasn't there when he came in. Can you imagine those two working together on the defensive line? Can you imagine? I mean, I'm excited just thinking about it. Because also you got guys like Mike Morris. You got so many great defensive guys. And now you get a new young head coach who was with the Ravens, and you pair them up with that? I mean, I'm not expecting like Super Bowl level like those Cowboy fans always do, but I'm expecting to at least, hopefully, make a statement, be competitive with the Niners and the Rams. Because the Seahawks, let me tell you all something right now. This team, I think, is in growth. I mean, these signings that we're seeing from the Seahawks, they're looking like long-term signings. I mean, you look at guys like Leonard Williams, Rashawn Jenkins, and Terrell Dotson. Those are right there, three really good defensive players. You got Terrell Dotson, who is a great player in Buffalo. You got Leonard Williams, who was a big impact last year for the Seahawks. And then also you got Rashawn Jenkins. He is an amazing safety. I watched this guy for a long time. And I saw him with the Jaguars, most notably the game-winning pick six he had against the Cowboys 2 years ago. But the Rashawn Jenkins, I think, was a good signing because he kind of reminds me, in comparison, I'm not saying he is, but he kind of reminds me of Earl Thomas. He kind of reminds me of the vibe that he gave. Those hard-hitting plays, those hard-pounding punishes that he would used to give. And this man, can he hit. This Rashawn Jenkins can hit hard. And you look at the secondary of the Seahawks, I mean, they're stacked. I mean, you got Michael Jackson, which is from, not compared to the singer. You got Mike Jackson, you got Tariq Woolen, if he can up his game compared to last year. Also, along with Devin Witherspoon, you got Jordan Love, who played a big impact in the game against the Eagles. And then you also got loads of great linebackers. You got now Terrell Dotson, and also along with Boye Mafe, which Boye Mafe, he set the Seahawks consecutive game sack record for the Seahawks. Excuse me. And I think people are undervaluing Boye Mafe. People are undervaluing this guy. Because when he was a part of the Seahawks, I would watch this guy and, man, this guy can play. He can play. And Boye Mafe, I believe, is a great player. And I think he's a rising up superstar. Also along with some great defensive line guys. You got Jarek Reed, Uchenna Nwosu, you got Leonard Williams, and Mike Morris, who are all great defensive guys, of course, with any rookie that they end up drafting in the draft. But this, and then also along with Darrell Taylor, who got extended. This team, I've told people this. The Seahawks, I feel, are one thing away from being a contender. One thing. I don't know what it is, but they're one thing away. I have a feeling they're one thing away from being a tough team. And you look at this offense, you got so many weapons. I mean, you got JSN, you got DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Jake Bobo if they start using them more, Noah Fant, Pharaoh Brown now. And then you also got two great runners in Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker. I mean, this team is on the horizon. And this team has the talent. But I have a feeling it's the quarterback that's the problem. Now, of course, we know Sam Howell and Geno are the two quarterbacks on the roster currently. But what I think the Seahawks should do, now hear me out, I think they should go to the Bears, get to the talk with the Bears, and trade for Justin Fields. Now, hear me out. Justin Fields, I've talked about this guy. He looks like a superstar on the rising. I've said I feel that he's a Brock Bowers or Marvin Harrison Jr. away from being a top 15 quarterback at the least. Because Justin Fields, we look at this guy, I mean, he doesn't have a great record, but that's just because he didn't have the best situation in Chicago. Because, I mean, sure, the Bears now have great weapons around him now. But he didn't have weapons that great when he was there before. I mean, you look at the Seahawks offensive weapons, as I mentioned, DK, JSN, Lockett, Bobo. If you pair him up with those guys, who knows? He can learn right behind Geno Smith for a year. Learn from a veteran. Learn from one of those top guys. And if you're not going to go for Fields, A person that I have been looking at, in the draft that I have seen as a potential landing spot is not just Michael Penix, because I know a lot of people are concerned about his injuries that he had in college. But I'm going to throw a name out there, and this name might shock a lot of people. I've got two: Spencer Rattler and Joe Mixon. Spencer Rattler, let me talk about this kid for a second. Spencer Rattler, I truly believe he's going to be a dark horse steal for anyone that lands him. Because he performed very well in the Senior Bowl that he played. And you pair him up with so many guys, I truly believe Spencer Rattler is going to be a dark horse steal for any team. Also, Joe Mixon, or Joe Milton, whatever his last name is. He performed very well at the NFL Combine, and he looks so athletic. I mean, do you look at that guy's freak body? I mean, he's got muscles. He threw a ball. I think it was like 96 miles per hour that he threw it at. And I truly believe if the Seahawks can get one more thing, I don't know what that one more thing is, but they could be a team to be reckoned with. Now, of course, a lot of people might not see it that way, but I see a team in the rising. But anyways, that's all the team's moves that I have to go over. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please make sure to hit that like button down below. Subscribe if you're new. Turn on the notification bell for day-to-day updates of my videos and live streams. I will be doing a live stream of the NFL draft. Each of the individual rounds. Round 1, 2, round 1 through round 7. I'll be going through each individual round. But until then, I'll see you all in the next one. So long for now.